I pledge my life and honor to the Night's Watch. For this night, and all the nights to come.
Bella Morghulis, Hypeswatch, back here again for another A Song of Ice and Fire epic reread. And why do I feel like I'm getting feedback from the microphone or something like that? I don't know. Weird. Anyways, yeah, we are here for Song of Ice and Fire epic reread number 31. Storm of Swords, Jaime, number 6. This one is Sir LT's chapter, and yeah, this month the Awesome Foursome is back again. It's Don Willie, Sir LT Giles, James Bushell, and Jerry the Targaryen Steamboat. And if you're wondering why we are not currently on camera, it is because we are having, of course, tech issues, because what would YouTube be without tech issues, right? But shout out to everyone who's currently in the chat right now. We got Big E, we got Greedy Magpie, and we got Pink Lash 007 in the building. So, gentlemen, how are we feeling about this particular chapter? Any thoughts before we really get into it?
One word: courageous.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, not really. I just wanted to say that you know, I've heard some messages to me personally that my the way I talk isn't Texas enough, so I'm gonna be doing this one in a Texan accent. So yeah, I just want to say that Jaime Lannister is my favorite character, and I'm excited to be talking about it.
Alrighty, James, you got anything?
I was just gonna say that I mean it's a good chapter. I think it's defined by a particular moment, and you know, I do take some umbrage to people that just like, and I get it. There's people that find, you know, they can't forgive Jaime for a certain act, but at the same time, he does show that, you know, I personally think he's redeemable. I know some people don't think that, but I do.
Such is life, unfortunately, sometimes. Look, unfortunately, when you happen to be a pretty boy asshole who kills your king and, you know, sleeps with your sister and pushes kids out of windows, you know, sometimes maybe just a little difficult to forgive.
Look, if we're going to talk about Jaime Lannister's character, one of the big problems with talking about it is that he's kind of like written two different ways, if you know what I mean. He we've all read the treatment that George R. R. Martin wrote, like, and said to his editor, like back in what was 93, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in there, you know, Jaime Lannister was supposed to be like just a straight villain all the time, and you really see that in the first book. You know, he throws him off the stairs. Throws him off throws Brienne out the window. He really has no real redeeming qualities. It's not really until a Clash of Kings that Jaime Lannister like really starts turning into someone that, you know, you can kind of root for. And it's sometime at that point when George R. R. Martin decided, well, you know, I'm gonna make him a different kind of character. I'm gonna give him a POV. I'm gonna have a redemption arc. So he's kind of written in two different ways. He's really written two different ways. You know, you got the early one where he's throwing kids out the window, and then you got this one who's kind of redeeming himself. And so, yeah, it's hard for people to like say, yeah, I can forgive that evil one because he was written to be evil. So, I mean, I don't know the answer to it, but I don't know. What do you guys think about that kind of like dilemma with George R. R. Martin's writing there, kind of switching characters on the.
Well, I mean, I think that's good. I mean, obviously, if everything stayed status quo from the first time you met a character, then that would just be boring. So I think it's a good thing. Obviously, it's good to have characters, and I think he does a good job of making. I mean, some characters he writes are just completely irredeemable, with no, thought of redemption. Like like in this chapter, Vargo Hoat, I find him to be irredeemable. Rorge, he's rather irredeemable. He has characters like that, Ramsay, etc. But I think it's a good thing. And I will say, I forgot to add this when you asked me about the chapter. I hate reading Vargo Hoat's his extreme lisp.
Oh my god!
I hate reading that. But
it does. Yeah. It doesn't bother me reading it, but when when I can't think of his name. The one who does the audiobook, when he does his voice, I fucking hate it.
Detrice?
Yes, I hate it so much when he does it. And then Roge's voice is similar to it.
I've never heard it, but I imagine it's bad.
You hate the fact that he talks like this?
What the fuck was that?
I said you hate the fact that he talks like this?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, all right. Well, let's get into the chapter, and let's see here. Shout out to Westeros.org for providing the chapter summary for this time around. So we have Roose Bolton, who has just left Harrenhal, to Vargo Hoat, and before marching to the twins, he told Jaime to give his warm regards to his father. And Jaime responds, "So long as you give mine to Robb Stark." And oh boy, obviously this is a precursor to the Red Wedding, and the reason why Roose Bolton says that Jaime Lannister sends his regards to Robb Stark. And for you guys who had read the books before you had seen the show, did you have any inkling of there being any betrayal by Roose Bolton when this came about?
I'll start. I mean, I had some inkling, obviously, because I started connecting the dots when ironically, we were talking about in last month's reread with the with Ramsay, Ramsay taking Winterfell. It started spinning the wheels, and the fact that he was essentially pretty cordial with Jaime. I don't know. I felt like something was happening, personally.
Well, I was caught completely off guard because he was. I mean, yeah, he was cordial kind of in a way, but he was also, how do I say it? He also was taking some cheap shots and calling being a dick to him and saying yeah, Lannister's lie, blah 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 blah.
Well, really, it was less about the cordial part, and it was more about the Ramsay taking Winterfell part.
So remember we said that we determined that the whole Ramsay thing could have happened at the same time as the Red Wedding. Remember we were saying that the timeline could have went down at the same time as Red Wedding.
That's true, LT. But James is just saying that that hinted because that came a book ahead.
Oh no, yeah. No, and then obviously something's going on because he's supposed to. If he's still loyal to Robb, he's supposed to get a raven into Robb right away and say, "I got Jaime Lannister," but he didn't.
Well, I mean, for me, because when I read it, I was thrown completely off guard by this. I did not expect at all. I mean, it's hard to catch all of George R. R. Martin's writing in just one sitting. The human brain, you don't read the way the human brain works. You don't read every single piece of information. That's why you can read misspellings. That's why typos happen and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to pick up on all the details on a first read through. So that's why. And I didn't. I looked at the major points, and yeah, I didn't catch it at all. Like I didn't catch as we all heard from last one. I didn't catch the Ramsay one at all, and I completely missed that.
You know what I was just thinking about, and it's a little off subject, but it's still on subject. I would say that I think it should have been our first clue that Stoneheart wasn't going to be in the show. Was obviously in the books. I think we can all agree that they made sure, or that George had this moment here, so Roose would say Jaime Lannister sends his regards at the Red Wedding. That way, that when Cat was resurrected or was brought back as Stoneheart, then she would have this personal story with Jaime that is being set up right now when they have their confrontation. So our first clue that Stoneheart wasn't going to be in the show was when in the show he just said the Lannisters send their regards, and not Jaime Lannister sends his regards.
That's true. I really didn't think of it that way because they did explain it. They explained it that when what is his name, Nikolai Walljoy, whatever. When he read it, it actually did say when Jaime Lannister sends my regards. When he read the Red Wedding, and he went and asked Dan and Dave, do I have a part in this? And so they thought that because it confused him, it might confuse audience members.
Well, I still like my explanation. Damn it.
It's a good theory. I'm wrong. But you got an explanation of it.
James, what have we told you about liking things, man? Can't be liking things. Not good.
Yes.
What I want to know is how come Roose never got extremely mad at Vargo Hoat? You would think he would, because it's like
he was mad. He was steaming.
Yeah.
He was talking shit about Vargo Hoat in the last chapter about how mad he was.
Yeah, but if Roose wanted to, he could have fucking killed Vargo Hoat right there, and nobody would have been shit.
No, he couldn't have. He explained it that Vargo Hoat was. Actually, we'll save it for another time. Eventually we'll talk about Jaime chapter 5, and because Roose has a long exposition about why he couldn't do it. But basically, it's all explained in that chapter, the previous chapter.
All right. Well, after this, we get the departure of Jaime and company as they're on their way to King's Landing, and Jaime is traveling with Steelshanks Walton and a host of men from the Dreadfort, along with Qyburn. And Jaime is traveling with Knight's honors, but he is not traveling with his normal regalia. He does not have on his golden armor. He does not have the white cloak of the Kingsguard. He is actually given an old Lawston shield. The Lawstons were the family who controlled Harrenhal before the Wents, and we still have absolutely no idea what the hell Lady Went is. And it's kind of interesting that that here you have someone who was such a proud man who now has to travel in secret back to his home and back to the woman that he loves the most.
Was Jaime Lannister really that proud of a man? Because he always came off to me as someone like, I don't give a fuck with. I mean, he did to extent care when it got to so many, like everyone was calling him Kingslayer, and it really pissed him off when it got to a certain point. But most of the time, he didn't give a shit what like an individual said about him. Most of the time, and he kind of had an air of secure, and what do you call it? Aura of superiority over people. So he just thought he was kind of better than everyone, which in a lot of cases sometimes he was, but and he just didn't always think that he was better as an overall person. He usually think better aspects, and he would focus too much on things that didn't matter. Like he was big on, well, you're a great swordsman, you're a greater guy kind of thing. So I don't know. I wouldn't say he was too prideful. I just think he just didn't want to be bothered by any shit to happen.
Well, when I say pride, I think I'm talking more about arrogance than anything. He's someone,
Oh yeah, sure.
yeah, someone who came off as very sure of himself, very cocky, and now it's more of now it's just more of him, him being at his lowest point, period. At least that's kind of what I think. Um, but Qyburn tells him that Selwyn Tarth has promised Vargo Hoat 300 gold dragons for the safe return of his daughter, but since Jaime Lannister, made the whole lie about Tarth being full of sapphires, and that's why Tarth is called Sapphire Islands. Um, Vargo Hoat is kind of like, yeah, I'm not giving her back unless he comes up with the ransom that I want. And Jamie seemed kind of indignant about this to a certain extent. He was just kind of like, well, I was able to save you, from getting raped before, but hey, you're just gonna have to deal with some rapings now, and she'll be okay.
I think he might have said that outwardly, but I think there was definitely a hint of that was just that's just Jamie's like coping mechanism. I think there was definitely there was some regret of what was going to happen.
I agree.
There was an underlying regret.
I agree with that. I mean, especially because once we start to get later on into his dreams, well, not dreams, but his fever dream, it definitely becomes apparent that he does regret his actions. Uh, just in terms of him kind of overblowing how much she would fetch as a hostage, but I don't think he regrets telling the lie. Uh, I don't think he regrets telling the lie um, in terms of like, hey, you know what? He didn't want to see her be raped, but it was like, hey, well, look, I did what I did, and it saved her for a minute, so at least I did something good.
I don't know. Maybe he just thought that, Brienne, she's a criminal, and we all know what happens to criminals when they go to jail. Maybe.
I don't think that happens to all criminals, though.
No,
Ultimately, to me, it just showed how much I don't know. I think it just showed how much of an idiot that Vargo Hoat is. He should have just taken the deal. I mean, obviously he didn't know how to, I guess, play the game, or else he ended up the way he did, chopped up in a bunch of pieces and eaten himself. Because one, I think it was obviously it was a dumb move to maim the son of one of them. Well, he himself is an important person, but the son of one of the most important people in Westeros. He obviously was not from Westeros, because I think he definitely made the
No,
moves.
he's not from Westeros.
Well, no, he's not. He's from I know he's from Qohar. But I'm saying it definitely showed in his actions that he had no knowledge of anything in Westeros.
Is Qohar where is that close to where Daenerys was?
It's somewhere over there. It's one of the free cities. It's let's see, look on the map. Qohar. No, like it's kind of on like the eastern border, or it's like on the western border of the Dothraki Sea.
Well, these people are idiots. Vargo Holt's an idiot. Ramsay's an idiot. Just they don't.
Where were you asking if it was close to? LT?
Where's that place where all the people that the 13 people
Yeah,
okay. Yes. Okay. I can't remember in the books, but I remember when Roose Bolton tells fucking Ramsay, "You filleted Theon. We could have used him as a bargaining chip for Balon." And I can't remember if he says that in the book too. But it's like they're idiots. Vargo Hoat's an idiot. Ramsay is an idiot. Like Jerry always calls Ned an idiot, but these guys are worse than Ned.
I mean, yeah. Well, we know Vargo. I mean, Vargo Hoat, he was introduced as just like kind of near savage level. So I don't think anyone ever thought that he was smart. I mean, look at how he talks. Look at how he talks.
This was probably him having Harrenhal or holding Harrenhal had to be the highlight of his life, and he was called himself the Lord of Harrenhal, so he probably felt like he was a king, kind of, and he just felt great at this time, but unfortunately, like,
well, no, he knew he knew what by this point he knew what holding Harrenhal meant. That's why he cut off Jaime's hand.
I mean, so you consider him to be an idiot, because he, cut off Jaime's hand, and wouldn't take the deal for damn it, what the hell is his name?
Well, he wasn't an idiot for cutting off Jaime's hand. He knew what he was doing when he cutting off Jaime's hand. He knew that Roose had put him in a bad spot, and he was trying to get out of the bad spot.
Well, did Roose put him in a bad spot?
Yeah, because Roose had got him to turn on Tywin Lannister by promising him Harrenhal, and he thought that was a great deal. But after a while, he knew that, holy shit, that once if the North wins, they're just going to go back up north. Stannis is done, so he isn't going to save me. So it's just going to be the Lannisters here, and they're going to know I tricked them, and they're just going to come and kill me. So what he was trying to do was he was trying to devalue Jaime to make Tywin mad at Roose by doing that. That's what he was trying to do.
Why did his dumbass just take Jaime back to King's Landing? He would have became rich.
Because he would have been killed. Like Tywin would have killed him because he turned on Tywin.
But wouldn't Tywin have forgave him if he brought his son home?
Tywin Lannister?
Okay, so whatever.
I mean, Jaime said that Steelshanks is going to get paid for taking Jaime home, and he's part of the North.
Yeah, but he's a Northman. He didn't directly stab Tywin in the back the way Vargo Hoat did.
It was a difference, yeah, because Vargo Hoat was a sellsword hired by Tywin and fucked him over. So it definitely would have probably not ended well for him.
I mean, listen, he probably he could have probably been like, no.
He wouldn't have made it either, too, because he would have been intercepted by Bolton men.
Well, I mean, look, he probably could have just been like, hey, no, look, I made it look like I was doing that because I heard about Jaime being captured, and I actually was getting him back for you.
By the way, I looked up at the ASOS map, and Qarth and Qohar are not near each other whatsoever. They're they're way far away from each other.
Yeah. Qohar is up near north of Volantis.
No, yeah. Qarth is on the essentially Qarth is closer to the what's that fucking place where Mel's from? I can't think about it. Asshai, yeah. Yeah, Qarth is close to Asshai, and Qohar is close to Bravo. So they're almost on the opposite ends of the continent.
I guess I just thought they were close to each other because they both start with a Q. No, but real quick, the Vargo Hoat's counterpartner in the show, this Locke fella, I went back and just watched the scene just because, we're reading this chapter. And it didn't make much sense thinking about it. Why, Locke was going against Roose Bolton in the show doing what he wanted to do. It just didn't make sense.
Well, Locke wasn't even going against. Yeah, I mean, because Locke was. It definitely didn't make sense to show because Locke was straight up a Roose Bolton bannerman. He wasn't. Yeah. He was just straight up a Roose Bolton bannerman, and I guess in the. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to think about it right now. That's too much.
Yeah, we don't need to be talking about Locke in this.
All right, so shall we get on to Jaime's fever dream, because that is a very interesting part in this chapter. Jaime has a dream, obviously, with two hands like he normally does, and he's dreaming that he's at Casterly Rock, but instead of him climbing the stairs, he's descending further into Casterly Rock into like a cave, and he winds up getting a sword that lights up, which is very reminiscent of Lightbringer, obviously. And
I thought it was Brienne who had the light sword.
they both
Brienne,
had one, because it
yeah,
starts off with
I thought his
him.
sword was just plain though. I thought his sword was just a sword.
No. It starts off with him with one sword. Then
Hmm.
Brienne comes in with another sword, and remember,
But
Cersei
are they
says
burning? I thought it was just Brienne's sword that was light on fire with the
no.
blue.
It was his sword, because remember, whatchamacallit, Cersei says to him, when that flame goes out, so does your life. He's like, that flame is representative of your life. Once the fire goes out, that means yours is gonna be done for too. Um, but the funny thing though, when it starts off with that, and it's him and Brienne walking, he says he sees like men armored in snow, and then he realizes it's not like that, it's the Kingsguard. And I think, like, we see a lot of different theories floating around online, and one theory that I've heard, because of this fever dream, that Jaime Lannister could possibly wield Lightbringer and be Azor Ahai, and that kind of stuff, because of this particular dream, and that he's gonna wind up fighting the White Walkers, which like I don't know. I think this was just a fever dream, and something with his conscience, fucking with it.
You know
I
what?
think that's
All right. No more Texas accent. All right. You know what I was thinking. Um, so when you said that, it really reminds me of what's the poem, "The Dying of a Light," that George wrote his first book, "Dying Light." So I'm thinking, and if you read the poem, it's about an old man who's about to die, and he's kind of fighting against the dying of the light. So that's basically what it is. So I guess this is kind of like representing how the light is your life. I don't know. What do y'all think there? I think that's a callback to that poem.
I'm not sure, but I was well, we're getting an echo through Don Willie. But I just wanted to read the passage, so we had full clarification. It says, "I gave you a sword," Lord Tywin said. "It was at his feet." Jaime groped under the water until his hand closed upon the hilt. "Nothing can hurt me so long as I have a sword." As he raised the sword, a finger of pale flame flickered at the point and crept up along the edge. Stopped a hand's breadth. Yeah, and it says the fire took on the color of the steel itself, so it burned with a silvery blue light. But it does also say that Brienne held up a sword, and hers was flame as well. So they both had flaming swords, is where you probably got the confusion from.
Yeah.
But they both had flaming swords, and I do get the when you do read this and you have those theories in mind. Yeah, it does have like maybe a Lightbringer, and then Brienne's Nisa vibe, and I could see how people could pull from that. But once again, I think it's like a diversion tactic, or have, I guess, maybe it's one of those things where you put in the story so you have the obvious, but you put something else in there just so that maybe there's like a reasonable doubt. But I mean, obviously, I believe the story is centered around Dany and Jon.
Yeah. I
So
think this is much more, what do you call it? Just a throwback to the Dylan Thomas poem, where it's just like, light represents your life. And don't go gently into that good night. And he's kind of
yeah,
struggling, and he did. He's struggling against it. and we see it even more. We'll see it again more. He'll struggle to save Brienne, but carry on. You say something, LT?
Oh no, I was just like, oh, it was the echo. I think that the dream is part of Jaime's guilt. That's all I think it is. I don't think it has nothing to do with Jaime being Azor Ahai. I think Jaime has a part to play, and in the final, in the end, But I think this is more his guilt. That's what I think it is.
It's definitely his guilt. I mean, that's definitely
That's pretty obvious. In fact, it's even more obvious when we get to the second part of the dream.
All right. James, do you want to read further into the dream?
Like, do you have a particular part, or just want me to?
When he's talking to Rhaegar and the Kingsguard, and he kind of
Okay.
the part where the guilt starts.
All right. Okay. The visors of. Okay. Let me go a little bit before that. Brienne touched his arm. There are more. He saw them too. They were armored all in snow, it seemed to him, and ribbons of mist swirled back from their shoulders. The visors of their helms were closed, but Jaime Lannister did not need to look up upon their faces to know them. 5 had been his brothers: Oswell Went and John Derry, Lewin Martell, a Prince of Dorne, the White Bull, Gerald Hightower, Sir Arthur Dayne, Sword of the Morning, and beside them, crowned in mist and grief, with his long hair streaming behind him, rode Rhaegar Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone and rightful heir to the Iron Throne. "You don't frighten me," he called during as they split to either side of him. He did not know which way to face. "I will fight you one by one or all together. But who is there for the wench to duel? She gets cross when you leave her out." "I swore an oath to keep him safe," she said to Rhaegar's shade. "I swore a holy oath." "We all swore oaths," said Sir Arthur Dayne, so sadly. The shades dismounted from their ghostly horses. When they drew their longswords, it made not a sound. "He was going to burn the city," Jaime said, "to leave Robert only ashes." "He was your king," said Derry. "You swore to keep him safe," said Went. "And the children, them as well," said Prince Lewin. "Prince Rhaegar burned with a cold light, now white, now red, now dark. I left my wife and children in your hands. I never thought he'd hurt them." Jaime's sword was burning less brightly now. "I was with the king." "Killing the king," said Sir Arthur. "Cutting his throat," said Prince Lewin. "The king you had sworn to die for," said the White Bull. And I think that's probably good on that, showcasing his guilt.
See, I don't understand his guilt. I mean, we got in the previous chapter that why he did what he did, and in my opinion, that was one of the most, even though idiots like Ned Stark might look down upon it, that was one of the most courageous things that Jaime has ever done. Is said, "Fuck my honor, fuck this, lives are at stake. That's what's important. I'm gonna kill this motherfucker, and I'm gonna kill the pyromancers that are fucking planning on doing this horrendous shit."
I get it. I don't think the more the guilt is for what he did to Aerys, but I think the guilt is that he looked up to Rhaegar and he felt bad about that he wasn't there to protect the kids. Because I guarantee you,
that is true. But they're these lines right here: killing the king, cutting his throat. That's obviously guilt about killing the king.
no, of course,
So that's where I don't. That's where my.
I mean,
yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Yeah.
Well, it's a. Go ahead, James. Sorry.
I mean, obviously, I've talked about how, I believe that, like, Jaime's act of becoming the Kingslayer, quote unquote, is obviously, I think it's more honorable than standing by and obeying an oath. I've talked about how I think it's idiotic how committing a dishonorable act, acting honorably under, or committing a dishonorable act under oath is viewed as more honorable than committing an honorable act that is disobeying an oath. I think that's dumb. And I think ultimately, dreams generally manifest themselves through your subconscious thought. So obviously, I don't think outwardly that Jaime has any regrets really, or maybe he does of breaking oath, but it's definitely, I think it's just a subconscious thought that he's having, where it's subconscious guilt that he feels, and it's just manifesting himself in his fever dream.
Well, Jaime was the hero. In my opinion, Jaime was the hero in this situation, taking out Aerys. But it's a both. Yeah, he's a hero, but also he broke his oath, and I think he deep down inside cares that he broke that oath. And that's why he's having this dream, and that's why he's thinking about that.
Yeah, you might be right there. He's still, and I think that, and we kind of see it later too when he tries to take oaths more seriously. But I think he's in a weird spot because Jaime before he's right when he says that these oaths are a bunch of bullshit. They're constantly contradicting each other. Like how am I supposed to protect the realm and protect the king when the king is doing the harm to the realm? Things like that. Like what about when they conflict? Or do those conflict? So I don't know. It just seems like it's just different than what the Jaime character that we've been kind of getting. Someone who hates the hypocrisy of oaths, who defends, who believes he did right. Like it kind of, this part kind of like throws me off a little bit.
Real quick, and I don't want to dive into this subject because I know it's off subject, but real quick, do you guys believe it's part that the whole that Aerys was thinking about killing the White Walkers or the Night's King or whatever? That's why he's like burning them all. Do you guys think that?
No.
JB, Willie?
Nah, I doubt it. I think Aerys was just fucking crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think he's crazy.
Okay, so my question to you guys, what made you? I mean, well, what do you think made him? What do you think made him decide to go save Brienne?
This dream right here, this guilt. He realized that part of this, and also like up until the point, especially the previous chapter. That's why I really like that previous chapter. He realized that how well that Brienne had been treating him, how well she had been maybe not treating him, but how well she had been taking care of him. She deserved a better fate than what she was about to get. I know a kid about her being a criminal. That's mainly the show. In the book, Brienne, yeah, she was wrong to got with Renly, but overall, she's been pretty noble-ish for the most part, and definitely didn't deserve. No one really deserves what was about to happen to her, but even if she was a criminal. But here, he just realized that, yeah, something can be done to stop what shouldn't happen. If that makes sense.
I mean, pretty much what I was going to say. It's underlying guilt, and like I said before, when you were talking about when it sounded like Jaime was like, "C'est la vie," I still think that there was trepidation, there was underlying guilt, and this just bubbled it to the surface, and it manifested itself with him saying, "Hey, I need to do something about this. I'm going to throw my weight around and get it done," and he did.
Now, do you think that that Jaime thought that this might be something that redeems him, like if he's able to go and actually save her from the bloody mummers, that maybe he might get some redemption for himself, like in his own eyes?
No, I think this is more of a selfless act where he wasn't even really worried about what effect it has on him. It's all about protecting her because she protected him.
I mean, I could. Oh, go ahead, LT.
No, it's okay. I was going to be a minute, so go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, I could see it. I definitely don't think he wants I don't think he cares about like widespread redemption, but I do think that maybe he has sub thought of he himself wants to be redeemed in his own psyche, I guess. I mean, I could see that.
I love hearing Jerry say that this was a selfless act. That was awesome. I don't know. I just didn't expect to hear that out of Jerry's mouth, but it was awesome. Anyways, this to me is one of the most courageous things anybody's done in the whole Song of Ice and Fire, including the prequel books. I don't care why he did it. It did throw me off when he says at the end it was because of my dream, but I just love the courageous, to go in there. You only have one fucking hand to save somebody, and to save Brienne Tarth. And like they're saying how people say he's just evil and no redeeming qualities. I bug all that. I think this is a very redeeming quality here. And you know what I would love to see in the future? Um, if he's writing his good deeds, because in the show when Joffrey's like, you still got good deeds. He wrote it himself. They saved Brienne, but that'd be awesome to see that in the White Book, that the Lord Commander saved Brienne of Tarth in the bear pit. I mean, come on, who would take on a bear with one hand and save somebody? Not many people, man. Not many people at all.
Well, are we gonna get? I mean, we'll get to that in a minute about the actual pieces of that. Like, one thing I wanted to ask or bring up is Qyburn and his helping of. He kind of talks after he wakes up. He's giving him the advice, and he's the reason he's going to King's Landing is to hopefully get his his chain back because he was banned from the Maesters. But what does he say? Oh yeah, when Jaime asked, "Do you believe in ghosts, Maester?" and he says, "Once at the Citadel, I came into an empty room, saw an empty chair, yet I knew a woman had been there only for a moment. The cushion was dented where she sat. The cloth was still warm. Her scent lingered in the air. We leave our smells behind when we leave a room. Surely something of our souls must remain when we leave this life." Clark Innings presents, "The Archmaesters did not like my thinking. Well, Marwyn did, but he was the only one." So I know a lot of people like to say like Qyburn is all about the science and he's bringing back the mountain as Frankenstein like. In my opinion, that's some lazy ass stuff. I think Qyburn is completely into the occult and into magic and everything, and I think he's trying to find a way to bring in marriage, magic, and science into the same thing, just like Marwyn. I don't know what you guys' thoughts on that.
You might be right, Jerry. I mean, that is the popular thing about the Frankenstein. But no, I love this part, and I'm glad you brought it up about the ghost thing. And also, it reminded me of how Jaime said if Qyburn would get his hand back, Tywin would make him force them to make him Grand Maester. But yeah, I agree with you, Jerry.
Anyone else's thought about Qyburn being maybe more magical than most people give him credit for?
I mean, maybe. Ultimately, I think Qyburn's purpose is bringing up, I think it's been a trope that's been done before, is like the whole, I think he's supposed to like be representative of like the unethical kind of doctor trope, like asking the question is, what's going too far for science? I think that's how I kind of view Qyburn. I didn't really think about that before, but I think that Qyburn's main purpose is to ask that ethical question.
Could be, but I mean that also could be mixing science with black magic too, as well. So it might be a blend of both.
Yeah, it could be.
But not off subject, but I think Qyburn's evil in the long run. That's my opinion.
Or amoral, at least. At the very least, he's amoral. Like kind of like if you ever saw Frankenstein in the Hammer series, where he was more of like I'll do whatever it takes for science. I don't care if I have to hurt someone. I don't care if I make someone better. I don't care. It's all for the science.
I guess that's the correct term. I agree with that more than evil. You're right.
Don Willing, any thoughts about the Qyburn here?
I mean, listen, Qyburn is to me all about the science, and I mean, look, if you think about it, right, even his assessment about the whole thing of Ghost is more of a scientific thing than I think. I mean, like, obviously there is some mysticism that plays into it as well, and with him being trained by Marwyn, it's not just gonna be a thing of 100% like pure science. There's gonna be some mysticism thrown in there as well, and his whole thing is he just wants to be the guy who he makes discoveries and is able to tell the other maesters, look, you guys were idiots for not studying deeper and thinking that everything was just kind of on the surface level. So for him, Jaime might have been thinking of it more as a mystical thing, whereas Qyburn is like, yeah, okay, yeah, you believe in ghosts, maybe in terms of like a mystical level and just a spiritual level, but he's looking at it in terms of like, all right, well, how does this relate to my scientific discoveries? And that's
I was gonna say, okay, let me see if I can say it in this way. I see Qyburn kind of like he's magical, just like Mel, but Mel kind of like Melisandre is more of a like one person of faith, believing in it, don't question it. This is the magic. This is how it is. Whereas Qyburn's like, okay, this is the magic, but let me figure out why the magic is doing what the magic is doing. You know, if that makes sense.
Jerry,
Like,
I just think you. Jerry, I just think you have a bromance for Qyburn. Just admit it.
I don't even like Qyburn. I just think that there's more intertwined with all these characters than most people are putting into it. Is what my thought is. It's more magical than people give credit.
I don't know. We got any more on this, or should we move on to what happens next?
I think that's pretty much it. I think So, what happens next? He tricks Walton into going back.
He doesn't necessarily trick him into going back. Like he wakes up.
He uses manipulation for sure.
Yeah, he does use manipulation. I mean, he wakes up. He's screaming, and everybody's asking like, "What happened? Why are you screaming?" And he's like, "Hey, I had a dream." And Qyburn was like, "Oh yeah, you had a fever," and he's like, "Oh yeah, it must have been just a fever dream." And then he's like, "Yeah, well, you know what? Hey, we got to go back to Harrenhal. I forgot something there." And Walton is like, "Dude, okay, look, we're already kind of in enough of a precarious situation as it is. Let's just go to King's Landing." Because I'm already gonna be in trouble if I get spotted by anyone else. Like, they can't even take the King's Road because they think that might even be too dangerous, regardless of how many men they have with them. But Jaime says to him, "Look, Lannisters lie, and if you don't take me back to Harrenhal to get what I want, when we make it to King's Landing, I'm going to say that Roose Bolton gave the order to have me maimed, and I'm going to say that you're the one who swung the sword."
He basically sounds like a spoiled little brat. That's what he reminds me of in this area. And then talking about how, if you do this, I'll sing the best song, and get you a lot of gold. He basically does a good job.
I mean, I think he had to in that situation. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's like that's his true personality. I think he knew what needed to be done to get what he wanted to get done happen. So he used his clout to manipulate the situation.
I liked it, but he still sounded like a spoiled little brat.
I think LT is right about sounding like a spoiled brat, like the way he used his tactics. But I think the main difference is with the spoiled brat, it's usually like they're doing it in order to get something, like to have a parent buy him a video game or take him to the movies or whatever. Whereas this, he's doing it to save another life. Like
definitely.
He's gaining nothing from it, so that's the difference between him and a.
That's what I was saying.
I mean, but the funny thing though about it, the funny thing about it is like, you know, he thinks about if he still had his right hand, he would have, you know, threatened. He basically would have threatened to kill him or take him one-on-one in a fight.
Thank you, Don Willie, and that's my point. I think this is the first time we start seeing Jaime start using his mind as a weapon, and we all see how it, you know, gets. Eventually, it grows enough to where he's able to, you know, take out blood or what is not blood, beefish, blackfish. He's able to outmaneuver blackfish without, you know, even raising a sword by using Edmure.
But the funny thing about it is, though, that he's like, what would Tyrion do in this situation?
There you go.
Well, because he knows that Tyrion uses his mind as a weapon.
Exactly. Yeah, I think. Does anyone have an example? Another example where this is the first time Jaime starts using his mind as a weapon instead of just brute force? I think this is the first. I don't know. I'm correct.
I mean, but this isn't his first time being kind of cunning, though. I mean, again, him telling the lie that saved Brienne from getting raped in the first time was first thing that we saw him using his mind, but it wasn't in a. This is the first time he used it in a way that was kind of malicious to the point where it was like, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do right now, I'm basically gonna make sure that you get killed.
Yeah. Good point. I forgot about that. That one. Okay. But I think this might be a step in his growth of using his mind. So there we go.
Well, I mean, Jaime could have said whatever, like he said, he could have said whatever he want. When they got to King's Landing, he could have said right then and there, Steelshanks and all them captured me or whatever, and they could all got slaughtered if he wanted them to.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any more on this, or shall we take it back to Harrenhal?
Take it to Harrenhal.
All right. So, Jaime and company actually make it to Harrenhal, because at this point, when they had first got up, it's like just before daybreak, and by the time they make it back to Harrenhal, it's midday. They don't see anybody at the gates, and Jaime. And this is the funny thing, a funny thing that I'm not sure if George realized it or if anyone else realized it. It said that Jaime cupped his hands to yell at the gate. I'm like, wait, how in the world did he cupping his hands? Only got one hand.
Typo. Good catch, though. Typo.
Yeah, like he cupped his one hand and a stump. But it says, you know, it wasn't until Qyburn and Steelshanks added their voices until somebody peered over the side of the battlements and then saw him, and then they decided to let him in. And at first, Jaime thinks that they weren't going to let him in. They rode past a bunch of people who were there who kind of weren't even paying them any attention, and then he realizes, like, he's hearing a bunch of people. He's hearing the crowd roar. He's hearing all of the applause and the roars from the crowd, and he's like, wait, something's wrong here. And he realizes that they have Brienne in a bear pit. And Jaime goes and he's like, hey, Vargo, what the hell are you doing? Vargo shows, a bandage on his face from where Brienne bit his ear off. So, obviously, at some point, Vargo probably tried to rape Brienne, failed miserably, and lost an ear because of it, and decided, okay, well, if I can't get what I want, then you get to go fight a bear with a tawny sword. Um, so when Jaime, is looking at this whole event, he's thinking to himself, like, all right, the bear is as tall as the mountain, but he doesn't happen to have the mountain's great sword, so Brienne should be able to kind of end this easily. And when he figures out that Brienne is only using a tawny sword, he yells at Vargo Hoat and is like, "Yo, get her out of there right now! I'll pay the damn ransom." And Vargo was like, "Listen, you know what? If you want her out, you go get her your damn self." And decides to jump into the bear pit. So thoughts on this whole interaction before Jaime is actually able to get in there and do what he does.
What an idiot Vargo Hoat is. I mean, one, he's offering you money, you don't take it. Two, you tell him to jump in. If he jumps in and gets killed by a bear, what the fuck's gonna happen to you? You know what's gonna. Actually, he knows what's gonna happen to him. So, it's probably gonna happen to him anyways, regardless if Jaime lives or dies. So, I don't know. Vargo Hoat. Just annoyed at his stupid talking way. What do y'all think?
I mean, pretty much. I'll pretty much echo that. I mean, like I said, I've been saying the whole time, Vargo Hoat is, I don't know. He just doesn't have many irredeemable qualities.
Just trash. It's just trash.
Pretty much.
That's why it's so awesome when you find out what happens to him is poetic justice.
Most definitely. So Jaime Lannister actually jumps into the bear pit, and him and Brienne, it's the funniest thing because Brienne is like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm saving you." And she's just like, "Well, how the hell do you plan on doing that without a damn hand or a sword?" And he's like, "Yeah, just get behind me. It'll be fine. Just, hurry up and get behind me." And they can actually kind of tussle back and forth to see who's gonna try to save who from a bear. And finally, just before Jaime probably about to lose his life, because the only weapon he could find at that point was a jawbone of someone who had already been thrown in the bear pit and died. He tosses it. They said he missed by like 100 yards or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he misses by like the widest margin possible. And then finally, we get the arrows or the quills that turn the bear into a porcupine. And they're like, "All right, cool, time for us to get out of here now." And Vargo doesn't even want to let them out because he's pissed off about not only them killing his bear, but the fact that he was like, "I didn't get to see Brienne pay for her taking off my ear." And at that point, he's about to try to tell the Bloody Mummers to fight Steelshanks and his men, but then he realizes, like, wait, my guys are drunk. Steelshank has a bunch of sober men, and he's got more than double what I have. So, yeah, you know what? Okay, fine. You throw him a rope, and you pull him up, but I'm not doing a damn thing.
All I can compare is when Jaime threw that jawbone, how bad he missed is trying to shoot a jumper with your left hand if you're a righty, or if, vice versa. It's not that easy to do.
Speaking of that jawbone, I was going to bring it up. I think that jawbone belongs to Amory Lorch, because he was in A Clash of Kings. He was kicked into the bear pit, naked, and that would have been about a year, I think, or about like half a year to a year before this event. I don't know if anyone else thinks that. I think it might be.
I just thought about that. That makes so much sense because remember when I was saying if Vargo Hoat were to bring Jaime, he would be forgiven. But no, Army Lorch was Tywin's guy, so he would have been pissed off about that too.
I agree. I didn't even catch that. That's a good point there, James. So, and I think you're 100% right.
That's a damn good point, JB. Hey, kudos to JB for figuring that out.
Yeah, because I definitely missed that one. All right. So finally, Jaime is able to get Brienne out of the bear pit. They pull her up, they pull him up, and they keep on talking about how they keep on calling her wench.
Hold on, down, Willie. Before we move on, I wanted to ask y'all: at what point do you think Jaime knew that? Because obviously, by the time he's telling her to get behind him, he knows that he's expecting someone to. I don't know if he knew that arrows would come, but he knew that what's his name, Walton, was gonna do something to protect him. Either he was gonna have his men jump in too, or they were gonna shoot arrows, or gonna throw spears, or he knew something. They were gonna do something to make sure he lived. At what point do you think he realized that? Because I always thought that he didn't know. He had no plan when he jumped into the bear pit, and once he jumped in, he thought of it pretty quick.
No plan at all. He was just going. He was just going off instincts, and he just knew something had to be done. So I think that I don't think he had a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he thought of it like milliseconds before he told her to get behind him.
I don't think he had a plan either. I think that at that point he might have been thinking to himself, like, look, you know what? If I happen to die, at least I can kind of feel good about it because it was me actually saving someone and not just it being a thing of, like, okay, I went there and I actually failed in the mission. His mission was to protect Brienne, and I think, it was like even if I die, at least they'll be able to write a song about the brave knight with one hand who fought off a bear to save a maiden.
Yeah, maybe. Any thoughts there, James?
I do think that he had. I imagine he at least had some underlying. I do think it was definitely a snap judgment, but I do think that he probably did know that. What the fuck's his name? Shanks. What's his name again? Steelshanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walton. That he would intervene because he knows how valuable he himself is.
Yeah, but my question was like, when do you think he knew that? Do you think he knew that before jumping in the pit, right when he jumped in the pit, or when he was saying, "Get back behind me"?
Yeah, I think he jumped in instinctively, like without a thought, and then it was like after he was probably in there for a little bit, for a couple seconds, then he probably realized, okay, I can get in the way because he knows that he'll be defended. But
I agree.
It was a snap judgment.
But I've heard some people say like, "Oh, Jaime knew, so he wasn't being that heroic." I disagree. I think he was being pretty selfless and heroic, doing something courageously stupid. That he was able to think his way out real quick.
It makes a lot of sense. It's like why put yourself in a position where you're gonna lose your life. But I do think it was a snap judgment. I don't necessarily think there was a particular forethought. Like, okay, I'm gonna jump in here, and Steelshanks is gonna save me.
Mm-hmm.
I was just damn heroic, man. Like I said, one of the most courageous things anybody's done in A Song of Ice and Fire.
Agreed.
I even think it would have been heroic if he had two hands and he didn't have no weapon. But the fact that he only had one, that just makes it so much heroic to me.
Well, here's my next question. Because like I said, once he brings her up, and even before that, when they're like, oh yeah, the wench. Every time they refer to her as the wench, he's like, she's Brienne, Brienne of Tarth, like which is what she kept on saying to him every time he would call her wench. Um, so what made what do you think made him kind of, I guess, value her humanity at that point more than he had before?
Well, first off, I just wanted to say to Jaime, this being a heroic moment, I'd say it's the second most heroic moment in A Song of Ice and Fire, behind Stannis being the only Southern Lord that would heed the Night's Watch call and go smash the wall.
Yeah.
I digress.
I didn't say it was the most heroic. I said it's one of the most heroic.
I know, LT. I was just making a joke. I was just fucking around.
To ever disagree with you about King Stannis, the one true king.
But no, I think what it is, it's like when if you like my brother, like I have siblings. It's like you always pick on your brother, but then when you call him these names and you pick on him, but then when someone else does it, it's like, no, he's my brother. Only I can do that. You got to shut the fuck up because he's my brother. You can't make fun of him. Only I can. I think it's like kind of like that. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think it's actually like it's been a slow process, but little by little he's been gaining respect for her, and I think after the dream he finally had the respect to call her like that was the like if there's a line of respect, he hopped over that line after that dream to be like, okay, no, she's no longer witch, she's Brienne. And that's my opinion. But I get what you're saying. James. But I think I don't think he calls her wench anymore, does he? He calls her Brienne from here on out.
Doesn't she call him Kingslayer right when he jumped in the pit?
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying it's like just that. I'm just saying like it's kind of that same concept. Like, like call her what she is. Even though I did the same thing, you have to respect her.
So, in other words, Jaime put some respect on the name, huh?
I suppose you could say that.
Yeah, she hasn't quite gotten that point there yet with Jaime. She still calls him Kingslayer.
The way they describe Brienne in the book, I bet Gwendolyn Christie is way more attractive than the way they describe her.
Oh yeah, Gwendolyn Christie's just big, like just tall, but she's like got still feminine proportions. The way they describe her in the book, she's like basically like a testosterone woman kind of thing. Got broad shoulders, big shit, like yeah, like if she was on steroids, like China or something.
But the funny thing is, during Jaime's dream, he actually talks about like that. Like he envisions her having a womanly frame, whereas before, like he says, he envisions her, being more feminine, but then he also envisions her as a knight as well, which is kind of crazy.
Okay, I think we've all been there. We've all fallen for a girl, and we've all seen her become more attractive than what we originally thought she was. So I think that's kind of going on a little bit here. I don't know if he's fallen for her, like, woo, but I mean, I think he's starting to see her in a different light. That's why she.
I disagree when people say that Jaime has romantic feelings for her. I think it's all brother, sister, friend stuff.
I don't know if it's brother, sister, friend stuff. But I think there are some. I don't know if it's as hard as people like they're the love of each other's lives. But I mean, I think he's starting to see her a little bit as a woman though.
All right. So Vargo Hoat, is kind of like, hey, listen, man. I know that this was kind of messed up, but just do me a favor and tell your pops that I no hard feelings. And Jaime, you know, Jaime was like, "Hey, listen, don't worry. All right, you'll get your ransom you're supposed to get for me, and the ransom that you were supposed to get for Brienne, because Lannister always pays his debts." You know,
Eh,
and
we have a question in the chat from someone asking if is it heroic if they're suicidal and don't have anything to live for anymore. My one answer to that is Martin Riggs in the story.
okay.
Come on, don't tell me you know who Martin Riggs is. Don't
Yeah, I
worry.
know who Martin
Okay,
Riggs
there we
is.
go.
I mean, I've seen all the damn Lethal Weapons.
There we go. And then
Yeah, no,
I'll know
I'm just you know,
Riggs is the hero.
I'm just surprised that you
Riggs,
related in
can you
Martin
hear
Riggs.
me, Riggs?
Shout out to Sweet YFT in the chat.
Hey, sweet.
Anyway,
All right. Let's see. So Brienne asked why Jaime came back to her. Came back to get her, and Jaime responds that he had a dream about her. So was that kind of romantic at the end? Him telling her that he had a dream about her, or was that just you know
it's him being blunt, in my opinion.
James LT?
Maybe I'm sorry. Maybe James is James. Maybe Jamie is getting into the cult and everything. Being with Qyburn. Maybe he was, listening to Qyburn, and it got him into the cult, and the dream meant something. So maybe I'm not saying this is what I believe. I'm just saying maybe that's why he did everything.
I just think it was one of those mic drop endings that
Yeah.
George likes to end his chapters with. It's like one of those things that just like it's supposed to make you think. Like it's supposed to make you think: is Jaime being blunt? Does he have feelings? I think it's just one of those things. It's just that George does a lot at the end of his chapters, where it's like one of those lingering questions. He does that all the time.
Well, he's thinking of quips, so I don't think he's trying to make a joke of it, and he's just like, yeah, and he just shrugs it off. He's like, yeah, whatever, dream of you, just walks away. Like, he's just being literal. It's a good line though.
So do you guys think that this was like the turning point for Jaime, or was it um someplace earlier that you could pinpoint? Like, well, now this is where the turn or began. Then.
I mean, I think you could see. I mean, this was like the first time where it like fully manifested itself into in the form of an action. But I think
it's been happening.
It's been ever since he got his hand cut off. Like after that, it was like.
I think even before that.
Well, it was definitely
think
then. It was definitely like that was a changing of his psyche, and and you could start seeing where he was coming from and stuff. But this was like the first time it actually manifested itself in terms of an action.
I think it started when he helped defeat the Kingsguard Brotherhood.
Well, I mean, I personally think it happened 15 years before the start of the story, or whenever it was when he killed Aerys. That's when it truly started.
Yeah, that's when it truly started, when he killed Aerys.
Well, we're talking about the turn, like from him being what he was before, as in just a guy. He was a different guy a little bit.
Yeah, this definitely changed his character arc and made people like him more.
I mean, part of it was we peeled back the onion and found out that guy we thought was evil wasn't so evil. So that was part of it, just getting to know him, which was always there. We just didn't know. But then I think that ever since he was traveling with Brienne and having to depend on her because he was in chains, was where the buildup started happening.
There is a lot of people that even though Jaime, you peel the onion, there's still people that will, till this day, even though the things that he's done, will say that no matter what, he is irredeemable because he pushed Bran out the window. There's people that think that.
It's the same with Theon. Even though Theon did some good stuff in the show, people still hate him.
Yeah. To be honest,
well, I got a question for you guys.
So
I,
So
I, I
Jamie
gotta,
became my favorite character when he threw Bran out the window. I thought Bran.
Well, I don't think that, but
well, listen, I got a question for you guys. Do you think, like as far as public opinion is concerned, that had we not found out that about Jamie pushing Bran out the window, let's say for some odd reason, Lord decided to that out, and we never knew who it was that pushed him out of the window. Saw like his dreams are being pushed out, and it was kind of a thing, but we never knew that it was Jamie who did it. You think that uh, that he would still have the perception and fan base about like some people calling him?
no, he would be
No.
100% babyface. It's just the fact that that happened that the reason why he's not.
Mhm.
He just would have went from like the cocky, arrogant asshole that he was in when you saw it from like Cat's eyes, as opposed, and then he would have just went on the normal redemption arc of like going from that to being where he is now. Um, but yeah,
Okay. Any final thoughts on this chapter?
Jamie should deserve to be Azor Ahai. That's all I gotta say. He's not going to be, but he deserves.
I agree with that statement because there's debates on who Azor Ahai is, and Jamie could possibly be Azor Ahai. We'll see
He's
though,
not.
but I think it's John.
He's not gonna be, but he deserves.
No, I know. I agree with you, but there's people out there that believe he is, and some people that believe, just like some people believe Victorian is and Stannis is.
James?
can you repeat that? What am I answering?
Final thoughts.
Any final thoughts on the chapter?
Oh, final thoughts on the chapter. Yeah, it is. It's definitely, like I said, it's the turning point, the 100% maybe face turn for for Jamie, using a wrestling term. And aside from that, though, I mean, there's some good stuff in there. I don't know if it's the greatest chapter ever, but it gets the job done. And I personally like Jamie, and I think he's been redeemed. I know some people might not view it that way, and difference in opinions. That's all. But yeah, solid chapter.
I have a question for everyone. So since we're talking babyface turn, where would you compare this babyface turn to what we've seen in the past? I would say it's like when Macho Man got back together with Elizabeth and became a good guy again. At WrestleMania 7.
I don't know if I'm trying to think. I can't think of a. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
think.
I can't think of anything either, so I'll just say that's a good analogy, Jerry.
You know what? I don't know. I think it might be more of the Rock when he kind of stopped being heel and decided to turn back. I mean, because remember, the Rock, uh, when he had first shown up and he was babyface, a lot of people didn't like him. He
They didn't
didn't.
like. He was getting like a Roman Reigns push too much.
Right. So he kind of until he turned heel, people really didn't like him all that much, and it was more because they loved to hate him to a certain extent. And then when he made the 180 turn back into the Rock that we all know and love now, that's when people kind of gravitated to him more. But you know what?
Yeah.
I think Steve Austin probably better analogy because even though Steve Austin, uh,
When he got beat by Brett in WrestleMania when he bleeded.
well,
Bled
there
out.
was that, but then also, I mean, if you think about it, um, he's the guy that no matter what there's still a lot of anti-hero in him. So it was like no matter how much of a good guy, or that no matter how much of the fandom is on Stone Cold's side, he's still the dude that's running up and hitting people with stunners and drinking beer and giving people the middle finger whenever he feels like uh and it's one of those things that when you think about Stone Cold, he's the guy who plays by his own rules, and to a large extent, Jaime Lannister plays by his own rules. Well, so yeah,
Let me get to finish this off. I'll just explain why Jamie is my favorite character. One, we kind of think alike, so that's one reason I really like him. But really, when he became I was joking about the whole character when he threw Bran out the window, but the real time when he became Bran, or when he became my favorite character, was when him and Catelyn in the Clash of Kings had that discussion, and he was just throwing everything back in her face, how everything's hypocritical, how the code, the oaths are hypocritical. That, in my opinion, was my first babyface turn to him, and it reminded me of when Punk went babyface with the pipe bomb. So, in my opinion, Jamie is my favorite because one, we think alike. Two, he's had two babyface turns. One like Punk in the pipe bomb, and then one like here, I think like Macho Man at WrestleMania 7 and saves Elizabeth. Or when Elizabeth saves him, sorry.
Interesting. All right, all right. So, yeah, I think that wraps up this month's chapter. This is actually a short one. Probably one of the shortest ones we've ever done. Man. But all good things must come to an end. Obviously, we will be back next month with another one. These, pretty sure we'll start the voting soon enough. Shout out to LT for picking this month's chapter.
Yeah, thanks, LT.
Yeah,
good stuff.
the Bear and the Maiden Fair. So, yeah, anything you guys, anything you guys want to plug before we get out of here?
No, I just want to tell everybody that I didn't even want to vote a chapter, but JB was like telling me how the chapters we didn't do, and I just thought of it. Just so I didn't really even want to vote for one, and I won. This is the fourth time I've won. Keep on voting for me.
You just can't you can't stop winning, can you? You just can't stop winning.
Yeah. Yep.
Next time I want to win. But yeah, so you guys got anything to plug?
Yeah, I'm gonna nominate Sansa again next time. Let's be a man and vote for Sansa next time.
Be a man and vote for Sansa. Okay. All right. LT, you got anything?
Nope. It's always fun.
JB.
I don't have nothing. I'm sick.
Yeah, and currently I got nothing to plug. I know I've been promising videos forever. I got to stop making promises that probably not going to keep. But one promise that I can't keep is that we will be back next month, as always. So make sure to follow Hypes Watch on Twitter. Gonna see when we put up the nomination for next month's chapter. Of course, thank you to everybody who came out to see us today, or listen to us today. Thank you to everyone who will check us out later on. And yeah, you already know what it is. Rate, comment, subscribe, share. Tell your friends and come back for more. We are the Hypes Watch, and this is Don Willie saying, Vala Dohirers. See you next month. Right? Guess we'll be back next month?
Yeah.
All right, then.
Yep.
Don't bet on it. No, just joking.
We'll be doing